Hello, students. I hope everyone's having a good day. Janice Ferguson, I believe, was the one who asked about what we've done through our career as a court reporter, and I'm kind of reluctant and hesitant to post this, but I think I'll go ahead and give it a shot. Pardon my voice. I've been getting over a cold, but kind of gives me that radio voice. So when I started court reporting school, that was in 1980, and I graduated in January of 84. So it took me 3.5 years to get through school. I passed my test on Friday the 13th, 1984. That was a special day because back then the dictations were given live, and the committee would rotate the test through and recycle the test. You never knew which test was going to be given, so you couldn't really predict, but I remember students would come back and talk about certain tests, and one of the tests they talked about was the literary dictation, and it was a nightmare. And that just happened to be the one that I drew on Friday the 13th. This was my second attempt at the test, and that's the one that I passed. And I felt pretty proud about that because I didn't have a lot of schooling between my first test in 83 and the test in January, because school was ending, there was Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc., etc. So I had to do a lot of the practicing on my own. And I remember using cassette tapes that Woody Wega had put out. He used to put out just a ton of dictation cassettes back in that time and even before. Woody Wega is a former president of NCRA and speed champion, and just an influence in my life throughout the years. I got to meet Woody back in the 90s, and he's a pretty cool guy. And he was responsible in many aspects for me actually getting through school and finishing because of his dictation tapes that I was able to listen to. So going forward, I worked in San Antonio from 84 to January of 91 with one freelance firm. Back then, the firm provided me my computer software, printer. I had to buy the writer, and for the software, the hardware, and stuff like that, they would charge us a fee, which basically was how they could afford to buy the equipment. The equipment back then cost a lot of money. It was just extremely expensive, and much more expensive than it is now. When I freelanced at that firm, I also worked in court. The surrounding counties around San Antonio had need for court reporters now and then. A court reporter would have a day off or take a week off, and so I would go around to different counties around the area, Kerrville, Bandera, New Braunfels, and even in San Antonio, I would cover court occasionally. After January of 91, I went to a different freelance firm, and I worked there from January 91 to 96, and I did kind of the same kind of work. January of 91 is when I started using Eclipse software, and have been on that software ever since, and it's been amazing to see it progress through the years. In November of 96 to July of 98, I had my own firm doing my own thing, and I worked for many courts downtown, as well as I was doing a lot of cart work for the hard of hearing and captioning from November of 96 to July of '98, I had Alamo Captioning Enterprises, Ace Reporting Service, and Ace Productions. And that was a lot of fun. Some of the things that I did with the second firm I worked for was we partnered up, a couple of us, and made a production company where most of our bread and butter was doing depositions. But I also produced a couple of rap videos and a video for my church to help raise money for a building fund. And that was exciting to work outside of the court reporting arena and do weddings and bar mitzvahs and stuff like that, and learned a lot in the video production side of what it takes to produce a video and the stuff that you have to go through to make it come up correctly. My captioning career and my cart work kind of started around, I want to say it was 94 or thereabouts. I'm looking here at my resume to see if I can kind of figure out when I did some of the cart work, because I did some really interesting events with my cart and captioning. One of the people that I got to work with was the Miss America Heather Whitestone, who was hard of hearing. And if y'all remember back in, I think it was 95, she was Miss America, but she was hard of hearing. And she came to San Antonio actually twice. And the two times that she was there, I and another lady got to provide the cart for her. And that was a lot of fun. And she was just a great person to get to meet. Some of my other cart work involved going to Austin with a political action committee. They were the Auditory Oral Action Committee, and they would meet once a month in Austin and have a board meeting, so to speak. And there was about 15 to 20 people in there, and I would provide the services for those hard of hearing people back then, and have it up on a screen, and they could all kind of read along and participate and talk to each other. Other things that I got to do was caption the Self-Help for Hard of Hearing group in San Antonio. They referred to themselves as the SHHH, which was shh, and that was a very active group, and they were responsible for a lot of the work that I got once I started working with them. They were really my first job in the cart arena. A friend of mine, Vivian, was working with them, and she invited me to come one time, and I was hooked, and really had a lot of fun working with those people. Some of those members were on county boards in San Antonio, and I would have to go to county meetings and do other things on behalf of those members of that group, because they would get appointed to positions, and they were very active in fighting for the ADA rights that they had to be able to participate in some of their work, and just a lot of fun to work with. They got me 2 years in a row to do Rally 95 and Rally 96 at the state capitol, where they were voicing their rights to have cart and captioning and getting the word out on what they were doing. Another thing that I got to do that was fun was in my church. There was a lady that I saw one day that was hard of hearing, and I went up to her and told her what I could do, and we started a little venture down for the next several years where she would email me and let me know when she was going to be at church, and we would sit in church, and I would come out of the choir when I was not singing or sometimes I would just sit there with her and I would write the church service, and she would be able to read along. The very first time that I worked with her, we were upstairs in the balcony above the back of the church, and that's where the organ speakers were. And she motioned to me like, what is that sound? And I said, you're feeling the vibrations of the music. And that was kind of really cool for me to get an idea of what it was like to be deaf. And I didn't really think about that, but that's kind of how she felt the music, because she couldn't hear it. And it was really cool. Another exciting thing that I did was I was asked by Eclipse to demo the AccuCap software to our local station in San Antonio. That was the local PBS station. And so I met a couple of guys from Eclipse at the TV station, and we demoed the software, and they bought the software soon thereafter with computer and everything, and they invited me to come down and set it up and make sure it was up and running. And so I put my dictionary on there and got it ready to go. And then a couple weeks later, they called and said that they had a show that they were going to be filming, and another company was going to caption the program. But they said if I'd like to come down and watch and see what's going on, I could. And I thought, well, that was a great way to see how captioning is done, because I hadn't done a show yet and was looking forward to it. And I thought this would be a great way to look from the outside in and be ready to do it when it was my turn, whenever they had something that they needed me for. Well, the company from out of town came in, and they couldn't get their modem to hook up to the modem in Corpus Christi, and they kept trying and all this time I'm watching this from the side, but I'm also watching the show, because they're filming and doing some test runs through the TV screen, and so I can see what's going on. And about 15 minutes before the show starts, the producer at the TV station comes in and says, "Breck, can you write the show?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." And he said, "Well, you're on." And I was kind of like, oh, wow. So I had 15 minutes to build a job dictionary and put stuff in my dictionary based on the show. And the show was being filmed at the San Antonio Zoo. They were talking about monkeys, gorillas, orangutans, gibbons monkeys, you name it, any primate that was at the zoo they were going to talk about. And so I quickly had to build my dictionary and write the show. Turns out that they were impressed enough with my ability that they put me on to write the rest of that series for the next couple of months, and they made that company out of Corpus Christi hire me to do the work. So it was kind of a by the seat of your pants opportunity, but I was prepared as much as I could, and knew the software and jumped right in and did it. And every other week I was in Corpus Christi and filming down there and captioning down there, and then every other week I'd be in San Antonio. So that was an interesting thing that I got to do. It was called World of the Wild and Wonders Under the Sea. Those were the two shows. They were rather exciting. Some other things that I got to do, one of the other captioning jobs was called Farewell to Violence. This was in 95. We wrote the show, and then I went back and immediately that night transcribed it and got it out within a couple of hours of when the show was over. One of the most profound events that I ever got to see was the speaker of that event was Arun Gandhi, who was the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. And to listen to him talk about his grandfather was just amazing. And to be able to caption that and capture his testimony and then have it uploaded for all the world to see was just amazing. And it was pretty profound. And a couple of the last things that I got to do because of the SHHH group was I got to caption the Billy Graham crusade in '98, Glenn Pogue and I worked on that together, and we would switch in and out of the show, the meeting. Billy Graham came in on, I think it was a Thursday, and had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 2 shows on Sunday. And Glenn and I were at each of those, and we'd ride and switch out, and it was fun. Got to meet Amy Grant, DC Talk, Jackie Velasquez, and just a lot of neat people there, and it was really fun that our 10 little fingers were able to bring people to God that wanted to. And what was rather amazing for me was looking over into the hard of hearing section, and when Billy Graham would do his normal altar call, just about everybody in my group got up and walked down. And so I made a difference and brought the message to those people that otherwise wouldn't have gotten it. And that was really cool. And then my local SHH group was kind enough to want to go see a musical called Showboat, and of course they wanted to be able to read the captions, and so they asked me to caption the musical Showboat. And so what I did was I went down ahead of time and watched one of the shows, previewed it, and wrote it the best I could. And they had a script for me, and I had my notes, and so I was able to go back and script in the show, and I was able to write some of it live, and some of it I could pre-caption and push out the text, so I didn't have to write it. You can imagine a musical or any kind of play kind of goes along rather quickly, and so being able to caption the parts that I could live and then push out the parts, the songs and everything else and other things that I could push was really a lot of fun. And I thought that was rather interesting. Some other things I did in San Antonio with the Bexar County Court Reporting Association was we revived the association back in the early 90s. Mark Miller and his wife and Don Pollock and other friends of mine, we got together and had a meeting and talked about reviving the association. And my first adventure in that was to help on the bylaws committee to draft the bylaws for the local association. And we did that. And then I worked on the membership committee and drafted a couple of newsletters for the association. And I was vice president in 1990 and president-elect in 91, and then I became president in 1992. And that was a lot of fun to get that association back up and running, and to see it now. It's really taken off, and those guys are just doing so many good things in San Antonio. And what I'm trying to do now is get the one here in El Paso going, and we'll get it going and get it up and running and take it from there. I've got to work on some of the advisory boards for San Antonio College as well as El Paso here, to where I get to sit in with the dean, the people that are in charge of the court reporting programs, and give input to what the schools are doing and suggestions. And that's been kind of fun to help work with some of the colleges over the years to help make their programs better. Since I've been here, actually after I left San Antonio, I moved down to Brownsville in July of '98, and I worked in federal court. I worked for the very first female Hispanic federal judge in the country, Judge Hilda Tagle, and that was fun. She was brand new, had been on the bench for a couple of months by the time I got there, and I started working with her. Actually, right before I went down to Brownsville, it was in, I believe, June, Eclipse had asked me to fly over to London to demo the AccuCap software and to demo the Eclipse program for some people in London. And So I did. I had to scramble and get my passport together, which was an amazing feat because I got it fairly quickly. But they flew me to London, and I met a girl from Germany, Heidrun, who was a court reporter for the German Parliament, and showed her the Eclipse software. I went to, I met Graham Smith with Real Legal. He was with his international firm at the time, and I was demoing the software for them. But the main reason that I went over there was to demo the AccuCap software for the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company. And that was rather cool to walk into BBC, and that place was humongous. And I took my stuff in there and demoed the software, and I believe that they bought the program. And we had even talked about me working for them, and I was about this close to wanting to join up and caption for the BBC. And looking back, that could have been a very interesting gig had I done it. Excuse me. Anyway, that was a fun time to go to the BBC and actually meet those people. Since then, I wish I would have maybe looked into that more, but I didn't. Hang on one second. Okay. Then I went to Brownsville and worked in Brownsville for a federal judge for almost 5 years. And in May of 2003, I left and went back into the freelance market and worked in the freelance market in South Texas for a couple of months. And then a friend of mine, excuse me, a friend of mine found out that I was available and able to do freelance work, and she invited me to come over to Jackson, Mississippi to do fin depositions. And when I first was talking with her about it, I was like, yeah, okay. Because, you hear these big cases come up and you think, it's not going to happen. And most of the time they have a lot of talk and nothing happens. And she emailed me about a month later and pressed me again and said, would you like to come over? And I got a little more interested. And then about 2 weeks after that, she emailed me again and said, we're going to start up in about a month or so. And if you want to come over, you can stay with us and work out of my house and with her husband and family. And so I took her up on it, and I moved to Jackson, Mississippi. Moved there for about 5 months and worked in Jackson doing fin depositions every day of the week, and that was a lot of fun. When I got through with that gig, I moved back to South Texas, and I went to a convention in San Antonio in 2005, and I'd run across a friend of mine, Roger Miller, and we were sitting in San Antonio at the convention, and hey, Roger, how's it going? He said it's going good, and I talked some more, and he said he was looking for court reporters, and I said, what are you offering? And we spoke, and I came out, moved to El Paso soon thereafter, after he'd made me an offer that excuse me, he made me an offer that was pretty good. So I have since been here in San Antonio. I came here in 2005 as a certified shorthand reporter. Since then, I have attained my New Mexico license, which is called CCR. And after that, I got my RPR in May of 2008. And May of 2011, I got my RMR. I got my Texas CRR in June of 2012. My CRR from NCRA in August of 2012. And my CRI from NCRA in August of 2012. Well, actually a couple of months later, but I've added certificates after my name. That definitely does not make me a great reporter. That means I've worked hard to get to where I want to be. to better myself and to do the best I can. Those certifications mean nothing if I can't do my job. And I try to respect the profession. I try to do the very best that I can. And I've taken on this little adventure called encouraging court reporting students to do the best that I can to bring the students along into the profession and do the best I can to prepare them with a lot of help from a lot of friends of mine. I don't think the students in my group realize how many professionals are in my group and what their status is. There are so many people way above my pay grade that are just people I've looked up to over the years, and they have been very influential in my life, and I'm just hoping that we all can work together to bring you students along, to make you all the best you can be, and be prepared for what happens when it's your turn to take over the torch and carry it forward. So that's kind of what I've done as a court reporter over my career. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and look forward to many more years of court reporting. And with that, I think I will close out of this rather lengthy diatribe and go back to doing some work here at the office. You all have a great day. Hang in there. I know it's tough. You can do it. If this old guy did it, you all definitely can do it too. Keep pressing down and keep pushing forward. With that, I'm out of here. Bye.